We're now live and just 3 minutes away from kicking off this webinar from Geneva, Switzerland. Just want to warmly welcome all of you who are coming into the room. And we are, due to the sheer number of people who registered for this webinar, we are also broadcasting this webinar, this event on Facebook Live. It is preferable you will have more ways to participate if you join in the Zoom room. So if you have colleagues standing by, it is likely to be a better experience if you stay in the Zoom room. But you're welcome to also look at the event on Facebook. So we're just 2 minutes away from getting started, and I want to warmly welcome you to this event. And we're looking forward to the discussion we have with us already. Samir Soda, Jill Milbal, Stephanie Schendale from the World Health Organization in Geneva, who you will be hearing from or listening to or reading responses to your questions in this webinar. Just a warm welcome. Many names flying by in the chat. So Alain-Claude Dongmo from Senegal, Suhail Mohammed from Kharpur-Pak, Mustafa from Djibouti, Annette from Ghana, Siedrazi Abbas from Pakistan, Kennedy from Ghana, Dr. Bamami from Yobe State, Nigeria, Sivenu Derek from Cameroon. Welcome to all of you. You're warmly welcome to this scholar event. Many of you may already be WHO scholars. Others may be hearing or joining an event or an activity for the first time, whatever the case may be, whatever time of the day or night it may be where you are. Just want to warmly welcome you. Get comfortable. We're about to kick off in about a minute with this webinar. So there'll be a very short introduction, and I'd like to already point you to the Q&A. If you're accessing this from a mobile device, from an app, you should see a Q&A item. I'll be showing you more explicitly, but that is the best way for you to ask questions as we go into this event. All right, so it is now 2 p.m., 1400 hours in Geneva, Switzerland. My name is Reda Satki. I'll be facilitating this webinar, and very pleased to be welcoming several distinguished guests to this open webinar series. I'm going to go through very quickly some basic background and context, and just some of the ground rules that you can see here. If you're new to this type of event, very much want to invite you to go find the chat window and type the city and country where you are connecting from. So if you'd like to do that, you'll find the Q&A is where you can ask questions. Do not type your city and country into the Q&A. Do that in the chat. And of course, this will give us an idea of who is actually with us in the room. So we're very pleased that you are here and that you've set this time aside from your busy schedule to spend this coming hour with us. Probably the most common question, and one of the first questions that will be asked, is how do we get the slide deck or the other resources from the webinar? So I'm just going to share this, the link into the chat several times because there's so many names flying by. And yes, please use this link. Yes. And that will enable you to get access to all of the resources for this webinar, but also for all of the other upcoming webinars. So a word about the Scholar program that this webinar series is a part of. WHO has used the Scholar approach since 2016 to support action planning and capability development. This is a growing network, and recognizing countries need support, WHO has decided to offer these open webinars. I want to turn now to Diana Changblanc to introduce herself and explain why what to expect from these open webinars.
Great, thank you very much, Reda. Hello, everybody. My name is Diana Chang Blank. I'm the team manager for the Immunization Delivery and Operations Group here in WHO Geneva. And on behalf of WHO and the Department of Immunization, Vaccines, and Biologicals, I want to warmly welcome you to this webinar. I'm very honored to have been invited to kick off this webinar on reducing inequities and improving coverage. As Reda said, our goal through these webinars is to help facilitate implementation of the WHO guidelines and provide a more useful and impactful opportunity for you at the country level, at the regional level, to shift some of these policies and guidelines into practice. We highly value your participation, your enthusiasm, and your strong commitment towards this effort, certainly given all your very busy schedules. As of the last count this morning, we had about 2,000 people registered, and as I'm speaking, I'm seeing many names go by me very rapidly. So we're super excited about that, and we thank you for having spread the word and sharing the information on the course announcements. So, as many of you already know, one of the visions of the Decade of Vaccines was that all individuals and communities enjoy lives free from vaccine-preventable diseases. And I think as we move into the next decade, I think we would still stand by that vision, but certainly add the word equitably, and that we want to achieve that equitably, and that we need to do that collectively as a global community. Again, we thank you so much for being part of this experience with us. It can only be successful based on the efforts that you put into it and the enthusiasm and energy you put into it. And I really wish you a very great and enriching course and webinar as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. You see before you that this is only kicking off the first of 6 webinars. So if you find today's event useful, the next one is actually happening at the same time tomorrow. And this will be with Emily Wooten from WHO. So you're very much encouraged, not just to come up once to see what it's about, but to actually make the commitment that you will attend and continue to listen and learn and contribute to these discussions. And again, in addition to the Zoom, so this format, this app that you are using, many of you have used to join, we've also set up a stream on Facebook Live to enable even more people to join, given the very high level of interest and the very high level number of registrations for this event. Now, just to finish with a little bit of explanation, if you're not familiar with Zoom, look for the Q&A button, because this is how you will get to submit your questions and also vote for the best questions. There are likely to be many questions. So check before you submit your question if somebody else has asked this. The Q&A is not where you tell us where you're from, but the Q&A is where you can ask questions that will be submitted to the experts. Now, the presenters. The key about the Q&A is finding the little hand with the raised thumb. You vote for a question, so if you want to see it answered, and the first question that reaches 20 upvotes will be the one submitted for consideration to the presenters. So that is the Q&A. You've already discovered the chat. There's a third tool that we'll be using, which is the poll. So you'll see one or more questions appear on your screen, and what we need you to do is to answer as quickly as you can. Of course, take time to think about and properly answer the question. The first poll we're going to share with you actually has 3 questions. So on your screen, you can see what the questions are. But now I'm going to launch the poll, and you'll see appear on your screen something that you can click or tap with your finger that will actually enable you to fill in and answer each of the questions. And for this first poll, there are actually 3 questions asking you, first of all, at what level of the immunization system do you mainly work? Second question, how familiar are you with vaccination during the 2nd year of life? And third question, is strengthening 2IL a priority in your work. So right now, only 10 out of the hundreds who are here in the room have actually voted. So please just click through each question. Make sure you submit your answers. And we're only seeing right now 25%, and we'll share these results with you. So it'll be interesting for you as well as for us to get a sense of who is actually in the room. All right, so we're seeing now close to 200 people who have voted. We're nearly up to half of the people. So if you're discovering this is new for you, don't panic. Take your time. You should see the poll on your screen and click on on the answer that's most appropriate, then click on the next question, and then you need to submit. And that's when we get your results and your response. So almost 300 people have, especially for this first question. I think we'll stop at 50% for the others, but maybe for this initial one, we'll see how. And then we'll ask and introduce Samir Soda, who's the lead presenter today. And perhaps we can start with his comment or thoughts with these results as we get to know each other for this webinar. All right, so 320 have voted. I'm going to end now and share the results with you. And I'm also going to stop sharing my screen so that Samir Soda may share his. Samir, welcome. And we'd like to, yes, start with your presentation. I confirm, if I could ask you participants to confirm that you are also seeing Samir Soda's presentation on establishing and strengthening immunization in the second year of life. As well as the poll results. And Samir, would you like to comment these poll results to that initial set of 3 questions?
Sure. First of all, let me introduce myself. So my name is Samir Soda. I work here at WHO headquarters in Geneva on the immunization delivery and operations team. And my primary area of focus is toward routine immunization system strengthening. Regarding the poll, so it is an interesting results, and it's very helpful to help orient me in terms of who our audience is. So although it's the district level seems to have won, it seems to be a narrow victory. It looks like we have an even distribution between all the levels of the government system, including national, subnational, and district. So that's helpful to know that. Regarding how the familiarity of people with the second year of life, there is a reasonable number of people who have not heard of it. Hopefully this webinar will give them some orientation. And then I see 52% have heard of it but are not familiar with the WHO guidelines. So we will go into some of the guidelines and give you an idea of what those guidelines offer you. And it's helpful to know that a third have already reviewed the guidelines. So it gives us an idea where some people have had some initial orientation perhaps. And then it is helpful to see that the majority of the people here who have identified strengthening 2IL as a priority area of work. So I hope this webinar will be of use to everybody. Let's see how it goes. So should we go ahead and begin?
Yes, please.
All right, now because this is a GRISP Level 2 course, and many of you have taken part in the Level 1 course that went over the Global Routine Immunization Strategies and Practices, or the GRISP, I thought it made sense to give a quick overview right now. So the GRISP highlights 9 different transformative investments to help achieve better routine immunization outcomes. So in other words, these are the 9 things countries can do to help strengthen their routine immunization programs. And the reason I wanted to highlight this in the beginning is it's helpful to know where the second year of life platform fits into this. And you can see there on the life course vaccination investment, second year of life platform fits into that. But to understand how the second year of life platform has become an important topic, we need to look at the history of the Expanded Program on Immunization, or EPI. So EPI was established by WHO in 1974, and it focused initially on providing protection in the first year of life from 6 diseases through 4 vaccines. And those 4 vaccines were BCG, DTP, OPV, and MCV. Now, because it was focused on the first year of life, this impacted how the routine immunization systems were designed way back then and for an extended period of time after. So because of that, our policies and management have focused on the under 1 population. For service delivery, microplanning has been targeting almost exclusively the under 1 population. Our trainings to health workers and to managers have emphasized that we should be vaccinating only the under 1s. The data management systems for recording and reporting data have developed tools, registers, and reports that are focused only on the under 1 population. Social mobilization and demand generation have emphasized to the community and to parents that they should be vaccinating children before they turn 1 year old. And even the supply chain has been affected because all the vaccine forecasting centers around the target population of the under 1s. So collectively, you can see that all of this means that the system has been designed almost exclusively for the under 1 population. And this is not necessarily the wrong thing to have done, because back in 1974, there were only a few vaccines that were available, and almost all of them were for the first year of life. And there was also not much development in vaccines for the next 25 years after EPI began. However, in the last 20 years, we've had a humongous amount of growth of vaccine development. And as you can see, that has transformed the way we think of immunization systems at this point in time. So now we offer vaccines at multiple age groups and multiple target populations. In addition to the under 1s or the infants, we now offer vaccines to pregnant women, newborns, of course, second year of life, to older children, adolescents, adults, and older people as well. And for each of these different target populations, we have to develop unique strategies and platforms to get to them. Now, the reason we have a specific topic about second year of life is that it's unique in that it does not require necessarily an entirely new platform. In fact, a well-functioning second year of life platform, the way I would envision it, it's really a merging of the infants with the second year of life. The goal here is that we want our immunization programs to be able to accommodate not just the under 1s, the existing infrastructure of our systems, but to also accommodate beyond 1 year through second year and perhaps even beyond that as well. Now, it seems conceptually easy, and it is easier than establishing a brand new platform, but in reality, it's more difficult than it may seem because, as I mentioned before, our systems are specifically designed for the under 1 population. So trying to suddenly have our systems designed around the 1 year old to accommodate the second year life platform, it's the equivalent of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. So it's not going to be automatic. Simply introducing a vaccine in the second year of life does not mean that you're going to have immediate uptake and success. It requires some modifications and some effort to make it work. But hopefully through this webinar that you will have some guidance and direction on how to do that. So at this point in time, we'd like to go over the benefits of the 2YL. Reda, did you want to take over at this point?
Yes, would you like to do this poll now or after having shared some?
I think we should see what the group says.
All right. So again, you're going to see a poll appear on the screen, and again, we're asking you to pick one of the items from the list. And then to submit your response. Okay, the first 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, great, you got it. So answer as quickly as you can. Of course, take time to read the the items before you answer. And once enough people have answered, say 50% of the group in attendance, we'll share the results with you. And then Samir, I believe, in the next part of his presentation, will be answering the question. So, all right, we have close to 300 people who have already completed it. And all right, with one item, one answer, receiving the most of the responses. Okay, so we're now over half. And if you're still figuring out what you need to do, that's okay. You should be able to select one of these items once you've understood the question and then submit your response. All right, so I think we're going to stop here and we're going to go back to sharing the results. So here, Samir, back to you if you'd like to comment this result and proceed.
Thanks, Reda. So most of you had the correct answer. Most of you did say all of the above, and you are correct. the benefits to a strong platform in the second year of life are all the three things that were mentioned there, which is higher coverage of the second year of life antigens, catch up of the antigens offered in the first year of life, and opportunities to integrate with other health interventions. I'm going to go into detail of each of these I'm going to go into a little more detail for each of these, so hopefully you have a better grasp of it and understanding of it. So first, the benefit of a stronger platform in second year life is that it gives us an opportunity to have higher coverage for these second year life antigens. And that includes second dose measles, DTP booster doses, and it also includes some of the newer vaccines such as meningitis A and malaria, the RTSS vaccine. If we look at the immunization schedules based on 2017 globally, among 194 countries, 168 or 86% had at least one vaccine in the second year of life, which is quite encouraging. And in fact, if you look at all the WHO regions, for most of them, and those regions, in case you're not familiar, include the African region, the Americas, the Eastern Mediterranean region, the European region, the Southeast Asia region, and the Western Pacific region. For most of them, it's actually over 90% of the countries. For Africa, however, it's still only 66%, but we should note that this is rapidly increasing as well. So it seems that the programs are evolving now to offer second year life vaccines, which is a great thing. We still have room for improvement in the African region, but it is going in the right direction. And in case you're curious of which vaccines are being offered in the second year of life, here's a list of them. And you can see that most of the vaccines are predominantly MCV2, DT-containing vaccines, and polio-containing vaccines. Now, this slide shows the impact of having so many countries starting to have vaccines in the second year of life or beyond. What this shows is the global coverage for measles-containing vaccines, both first dose, as shown in the green, as well as second dose. And if you're looking at overall second dose, that's the blue. And then the coverage of MCV2 by age 2 is shown in the red. And you can see the trend of coverage from the years 2000 to 2017 here. And as you can see, in that time frame, MCV1 has improved from the low 70s to 85% coverage. But during that same time period, MCV2 has had a much more dramatic improvement in coverage. It's gone from, for the overall, it's been from the teens, and for the MCV2 by age 2 from below 10, and has gone up to 67% and 52% respectively. That's a much more dramatic increase in coverage, and a lot of that is, most of that's actually attributed to the number of countries who have begun introduction of vaccine in the second year of life, and that is why we've made progress in this area. However, even though most countries are offering vaccine in the second year of life, and usually the MCV2 is that vaccine, you can see we have a huge dropout from 85% to either 67 or 52%, depending on how you look at it. Either way, it's a really high dropout rate, and we need to make progress on this. It's a sign that we have second year life platforms, but that there's a lot of variability in the strength of those platforms. So another benefit, and often an underrated benefit of the second year of life platform, is that it gives us a catch-up opportunity for those vaccines that are offered in the first year of life, such as for DTP or MCV1. And the reason for that is it's quite intuitive. It's giving us additional time and contact points to vaccinate a child who was not vaccinated previously. And this is an opportunity to highlight how this overlaps with another important area of work, which is the area of missed opportunities for vaccination. So we've had survey analyses done that have shown that there's a potential improvement in Penta-3 or DTP3 coverage by as much as 10% if we just simply address the missed opportunities. And as it turns out, when you look at where those missed opportunities fall, a large proportion of them actually happen to occur in the second year of life. So if we can establish that strong second year of life platform or 2IL platform, it offers us that EPI contact for children to get vaccinated and to catch up on those missed vaccines. Now at the bottom of this slide, you can see there's some figures there showing us the pictures of our latest guidance documents on missed opportunities for vaccination. They're relatively new. And just want to highlight that we will be having, as Red already mentioned earlier, a webinar on missed opportunities that will be offered on May 29th. So if this is a huge area of work, it does overlap with the 2YL work as well, but it is in its own way unique. And so I would highly encourage you to attend that webinar as well to get more information on missed opportunities. This slide shows us how the potential impact of coverage in the second year of life if you have a second year life platform in existence. So this analysis was done among 45 low and middle income countries using their DHS survey data, and then it tracked the coverage rate by age. So the age is shown here on the x-axis in weeks, and the coverage is shown on the y-axis up above. And if you look at it, you can see that when we get to the 52-week mark, you can see the blue line for DTP3 shows that at 1 year of age, coverage was only 65%. But because many of these countries have a second year of life platform, you can see that the coverage goes up to 74% just because of the fact that we've given additional opportunities to be vaccinated. And similarly, and perhaps in a more dramatic fashion, you can see that for the MCV1, coverage at 1 year of age is at 54%. But because of that second year of life platform, it goes all the way up to 80%. So you can see that having this entire platform in the second year of life gives these additional opportunities that are critical to improving coverage. Next, I want to go over the opportunities to integrate with other health interventions. And this is an area of work that is gaining more notoriety as we are working harder and harder to integrate our limited resources and health programs to try to maximize benefit across the board. You can see in this document, this is the Working Together document. It's a resource guide. It's an integration resource guide for immunization services throughout the life course. And there will be a webinar on this topic tomorrow, and it's a very easy to read and it's very useful to read. I encourage everyone to do it and to attend the webinar tomorrow as well. This also has overlap with the second year of life because you can find within that document information on how we can integrate across immunization platforms. And in the second year of life, you can see here that there's a variety of vaccines that we can potentially offer, but at that same time, we can offer other health services as well in the areas of nutrition, malaria, neglected tropical diseases, reproductive health, HIV, WASH, and health education. I also want to particularly highlight in the nutrition, the vitamin A supplementation. It is a theoretical thing we can offer in the second year of life, but most countries are yet to do that because we tend to offer that through our polio campaigns. So it's good to be prepared that as polio campaigns become less prevalent, possibly in the future with eradication efforts, we need to start planning ahead and start offering vitamin A through our second year of life platform. You can see there's so many opportunities for integration in this platform, and it's a two-way street. So in some cases, some of these activities are already ongoing, and immunization can leverage off of those activities to improve coverage. And then it works the other way around too. Often it's the immunization programs that already exist and are already offering access to populations, and they can help leverage those opportunities to improve the health outcomes for these other programs as well. So hopefully by now, I've convinced you on the importance of the second year of life platform, but we need to talk about also what are the challenges and why it's a challenge to get this platform to be strong in all countries. So on the delivery side, meaning among the health workers and the health system, some of those challenges that we have identified through country experiences is one, lack of awareness to vaccinate beyond the first year of life. And that's partly related to the next two items, which is that there's often unclear policies regarding catch-up and eligibility ages. There's also lack of training that's focused on the second year of life. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, there are often missed opportunities that occur in the second year of life that go unaddressed. Health workers also express concerns about wastage, and they also have fear of stockout. And because of that, they're very reluctant to vaccinate the children that are over age 1. And then, of course, we have a reporting and coverage monitoring systems that are designed to only monitor the infant doses. And so without the ability to monitor whether children are getting vaccinated or not, it's difficult for management to be able to know if this is going well or not going well. And then there's also health workers who are often reporting that they already have high workload burdens. And so for us to offer immunization services to a wider age group, it's a concern for them because of the concern of their workload. On the other side, on the demand side, amongst caregivers, Some of the common challenges are that there is a lack of awareness of that vaccine is needed beyond the first year. And part of that's because of the insufficient engagement of the community and stakeholders. And it's also because of the success of social mobilization and demand generation for the last 40 years that's focused on the under ones, that it's created a little bit of a barrier for us to go beyond that at this point in time. There's also insufficient communication and reminders to come back. This is particularly important for the second year of life because we tend to have longer intervals between doses. So it's very common for a country to offer a vaccine at the 9-month visit, such as MCV1 or yellow fever. But then the next dose, the next immunization visit might not occur till 18 months of age. A 9-month gap is an eternity for a parent, and it's very easy for them to forget without a reminder system in place. And there could be barriers to vaccinating older children simply because they've become heavier and they're becoming stronger. They're more prone to temper tantrums. It's understandable why that would be difficult for a parent to bring them in, especially if they have to go over longer distances. And there's also logistical challenges. As children get older, mothers are often not with them during the day. This is particularly applicable in the urban settings where mothers may be working during the day and leave their children with other family members. And so we need to make sure that we have health facilities that accommodate these scheduling issues. And by the way, that gives me an opportunity to also highlight how this overlaps with the urban immunization work. And there will be a webinar on that on May 27th. So I also encourage all of you to watch that as well. So Reda, did you want to take over here?
Yes, thanks, Samir. So I'm going to launch this poll now. This one has many different options, so we're going to give you a little bit more time to read through them. And this is about your settings. So what do you think are the main challenges to establishing or strengthening 2YL in your setting? And we'd like you to click no more than 3. But let's see. All right, we've had one person start, and this one requires a little bit more, there's a little bit more to read before you start checking the boxes, so we appreciate your thoughtfulness. And then, of course, we'll ask Samir to comment, and we have many great questions. So Samir, perhaps this would be a good time to answer the questions. I know that one of your colleagues, Stephanie Schendale, has been busy answering quite a few questions in the Q&A. So do look to the answered questions. You may find answers to your own questions there. And if you'd like to upvote the questions that you find most interesting, once you've clicked off your items on the poll. All right, so here we have almost 300, so we're close to half of, okay. And we now have over half of people who've voted. Maybe we'll let this one run a few seconds longer. So just if you need to think about it, please do so. And we can see now, once you have completed the poll, though, go vote for the questions you'd like to see answered, because right now there's one that had reached our threshold of that had many votes, but that has already been answered by Imran Mirza, who is Samir Soda's UNICEF colleague, who's been providing, along with Stephanie Schendale from WHO, who've been providing written answers to the questions that garnered the most votes. All right, so we've got almost 500 people who have voted, so I'm going to end the poll here and share the results with you. Samir, back to you.
Thank you, Rita. So I think it's quite interesting that the poll results show what the reality is, which is that there's not one single or two single things that are causing challenges in establishing a second year of life platform. And you can see that there's a relatively even distribution across. So it is lack of awareness among health workers, and it looks like lack of awareness among caregivers was the #1 thing voted, and that is also true. But everything else also had at least 30 to 40% voted on, which is basically what we're seeing as well in our field experiences, is that it's not easy to fix because there's so many issues involved. And I'm glad to see that everyone seems to have consensus that it is multiple issues that need to be addressed if we're going to fix the challenges of establishing a second year life platform. So very interesting to see. So now that we have consensus that there's a broad variety of challenges and problems to establishing a strong 2IL, let's look at what we can do to strengthen it. So this is hardly a universal list. There's more possibilities of what we can do to strengthen our 2IL programs. And this is also not mean it's applicable in every setting. It's obviously going to depend on your own country context. But here are some of the main things that we have noted as being necessary to having a strong 2IL program. So first, you need to have catch-up vaccination policies for the second year of life. So it's not sufficient to simply introduce a vaccine in the second year of life, such as MCV2, and then just expect that children are going to get their MCV1 catch-up or the DTP catch-up in that second year of life. So we have noticed that it's unclear to the health workers what they're supposed to do in those circumstances, and so policies need to be put in place. And then on top of that, dissemination of those policies as well. In addition, we need to have monitoring changes to our recording and reporting systems so that 2IL doses can be recorded in the home-based records, in the tally sheets, in the registers. We also need to be tracking in our monitoring charts as well. And then I'm sure we all agree that we need to have training of our health workers and our mid-level managers and how that's an important key part of this, but that it's not the only thing we can do. It's just one piece of many things that we need to do. On the supply side, we do need to modify vaccine forecasting to avoid stockouts. That fear of stockouts may be a legitimate concern of health workers, and we need to make sure we can address it and ensure that there's sufficient vaccine supply in the health facilities. However, it's important to note that 2IL may not always require more vaccine. And in fact, in some settings, and particularly in rural settings, for certain vaccines like measles, it may actually decrease wastage. And that's because, as I think most of you know, the measles vaccine is discarded after the vaccination session, and we often have higher wastage rates with that. But if you're able to vaccinate additional children in the second year of life, you will have a lower wastage rate. So this is part of the reason we don't have exact formulas for you in terms of how to do the vaccine forecasting. It's dependent on your setting, it's dependent on your vaccine, but there has to be a process and a thought process on how to adjust your supply. And then, of course, on the demand side, the social mobilization to increase community awareness, that was the #1 barrier voted by all of you, and we would there would have to be effort on fixing that as well. So I want to highlight to all of you that there are resources available to you to help tackle these issues. The website that's shown at the top, if you click on that, you will find access to all of these things listed on this slide. We have a guidance document on how to establish and strengthen immunization in the second year of life. It's currently available in French, Portuguese, and English. And we have a implementation handbook that goes along with that guidance book. So the difference is the guidance document goes over the basic principles of strengthening 2IL, but the more of the how-to part of it, the specific timelines and checklists that are necessary to get it done, it's a much more granular document. That comes in the handbook and is a good way. It's a good accompaniment to the guidance document. And for those of you who are not aware, that handbook just got uploaded onto the website just a few weeks ago. So you may have seen the guidance document a few months ago. This handbook has just been uploaded a few weeks ago. And even more updated, we now have the training materials, the PowerPoint slides, and the facilitator guide to help all of you as well. And that just got uploaded onto the website just yesterday, just in time for this webinar. So if you haven't gone to the website recently, please do that now, and you can, or soon after the webinar, and you can have access to these training materials. In addition, I would like to thank our UNICEF colleagues for providing us additional tools that you can get access to from the website. The 2IL costing tool developed by UNICEF allows you to cost out the cost to actually establishing and strengthening a second year of life platform. It's an easy to use Excel spreadsheet. Anytime you want to do activities or strengthen your immunization programs, there will be a cost involved, and it's important to know what that cost is for budgeting purposes. And then there's also communication field aids also provided by UNICEF. So there's a lot of resources available to you. I want to just quickly go over some of the key sections of the guidance document for you. Sections 1, 2, and 3 are more background, and some of those concepts I've already discussed with you. So I'm going to jump to section 4. Section 4 talks about the policies and planning for vaccination in the second year of life and beyond. So key things that are included in this section are on how to decide on the timing of the 2YL visits. It discusses the catch-up vaccination policies that are necessary in the second year of life, and how to coordinate vaccination with other services in the second year of life. Section 7 is about recording, reporting, and using data for decision making. It goes over how to update the forms and health information systems to properly monitor immunization coverage in 2YL. It goes over which indicators to monitor and how to record and report late vaccinations. And it also, very important, we can't forget that the critical role of the home-based records. It's difficult to have a strong 2YL program if you don't have home-based records that are being used and are been adapted for the second year life platform. Section 9 is on communication, demand promotion, and community engagement. This goes over all the key messages that we need to get out to the communities to help raise awareness. And it also has that key element about the importance of home-based records. And it's an important message for communities to have as well. And section 10, which would be relevant, I think, for most people, this is about strengthening an existing 2YL vaccination program and how to go about doing that. It goes over the methods of how to assess the field visits and how to assess the performance and the reasons for low performance in a particular area. It also goes over action points. Once you identify what your issues are, it has some suggested action points and what you can do to help address it. So perhaps it may be arguably the most important section, because if I think most of you are living in countries that have a 2YL program in place. And so this would be the section I would highlight the most if that is your scenario. And just to give you an idea of what's also included in the guidance document, there are some sample tools for you to see. So we have best practice tally sheets. How do we actually modify our existing tally mechanisms or tally sheets so that we can record the second year of life vaccines as well? There's also monitoring charts that allows you to monitor not just the conventional DTTP1, DTTP3 dropout, but also MCV1, MCV2 dropout, which is is an indicator for us to follow how we're doing our second year of life platform. And there's also sample tools and job aids for health workers and how they can screen children for catch-up vaccination. These are all just sample tools to give you an idea of what you can do. They obviously would have to be modified for your country context, but it would hopefully give you a starting point of where to work from. In addition, between the guidance document and the handbook, you can find training scenarios that you can have for vaccination a second year of life. There's a timeline and checklist for planning and implementation that you can find in the handbook. And there's also field guides on how to do your assessments and monitoring as well in the field. And they've also been broken down at the national level, the subnational level, as well as the health facility level. So that summarizes what the guidance has. We don't have time to go over the details of it because I encourage all of you to read the guidance documents yourself. But let me quickly summarize what we've discussed today. Many immunization programs are designed still around the first year of life only and need to be adapted. But the benefits of a strong 2YL platform is that it can improve coverage for 2YL antigens, such as MCV2. It can also improve coverage of first-year antigens through the catch-up. And it gives us an opportunity to integrate with other health interventions. 2YL strengthening requires a system-wide approach. There's not going to be a single intervention, not just a single training that's going to fix the problem. It's going to require changes to our policies, our trainings, our data, our communication, and many other things as well. So it's going to be a holistic approach. And then just a reminder, there's the website at the bottom. So if you have any additional questions and you want to dig deeper into this, that website will give you access to all of those resource documents for you. So thank you, everybody.
Great, thank you so much, Samir. I'm going to take your thank you slide, and yes, and here we go. And we have one final question, one final poll for you. And then we're right on schedule. We have 19 minutes, which is quite a bit of time. We hope it may feel very short for you to consider the questions that are in the Q&A. Vote for the ones that you would really like to see Samir Soda and his colleagues answer orally. And in the meantime, I'm going to also launch our final question. So you should see on screen the question: should strengthening 2YL be a priority in your work? All right. And I see the voting is a lot faster. Well done. You're a great group of participants. I know for some of you at least, this is the first time you're joining this, this kind of digital event, this webinar online. So it's a new way to communicate, to learn. One key point is let us know. This is about your feedback. It matters. I see many open questions, and I see Samir Soda's colleagues have provided written answers to many of them. Nevertheless, please, once you've finished voting in the little poll, look at least some of the questions. If you see questions, scan them, and if you see questions that are, that you'd like to see answered, click on the little hand with a raised thumb. It's a little gray icon. It's kind of hard to see. That is how you tell us that for you is an important question. And we've had in the 45 questions that the WHO team has answered, we have questions that have garnered as many as 74, 75 votes. So please take a bit of time as soon as you've answered the poll question, move over to the Q&A and help us identify the best questions so that they rise to the top. So right now we have 450 people who have answered the question about strengthening 2YL. That's far less than the number of participants. So please go to the poll. This one is a yes, no, or I am not sure. So please, definitely make sure you have completed the poll. I see it's very slow going at this point. So I am telling you two different things. Look at the Q&A and vote for questions, but before that, vote for the yes, or actually, just indicate yes, no, or I am not sure in response to the question, should strengthening 2YL be a priority in your work? And I do want to acknowledge the folks who are following us on the Facebook Live. We opened up a Facebook Live feed given the large number of people who registered for this webinar. So just to say hello to those of you who are watching us on the Facebook. Unfortunately, it is not possible for you to participate in the poll. So we're now at 80%. Okay, I think the trend is quite clear, and hopefully that's given you some time to look at the questions. So I will now share the results. So yes, 92% of you now, after having heard Samir Soda's presentation, believe strengthening 2YL should be a priority in your work. And we still have 5% who are not sure. Samir, would you like to comment on this result?
Yes, I mean, it's encouraging. I'm glad to see that so many people recognize the importance of this. I think this is an uptick from before the first time we asked this question. Is it right? I think we were in the 70% range, if I'm not 70-something percent, the first time we asked it. We're now up to 92%. So people are either being very nice to me, or they think hopefully they are seeing that there's technical value in strengthening the second year life platform. So I think that's a good thing. I haven't been able to follow the questions while I've been talking, but I just heard that one of the common questions that's been asked, I thought I would address here. I believe what's been asked is, why are we focusing on the second year life platform and not on all the other platforms? And that is a really excellent question to be asked. And the answer is that we're not saying that the other platforms shouldn't get attention. It's just that we are going to focus on the second year life, partly because it is perhaps the lowest hanging fruit. It's the platform that already exists. We already offer vaccination services for infants, and it does not require much work to actually modify those systems to allow going beyond the first year of life. So given it's the most lowest hanging fruit, and it's still highly impactful. You can see improvements in coverage that are occurring. On that slide that I showed of global measles coverage, or not global, the 45 countries, they had a 25% increase in coverage just by having that second year of life for MCV1. So it's an impactful platform, and it's a low hanging fruit. So each of those other age groups in the life course require attention as well, but they need their own time as well. And I would like to also remind all of you that we will be having the life course integration talk webinar tomorrow, and that will touch up on some of the other platforms as well. There's not going to be a way we can address everything in one webinar. So we focused on second year of life for right now for this reason.
All right, thank you, Samir. So we actually we don't have any questions currently that have garnered the 20 up votes required. I believe one of your colleagues, Samir, may have some country examples to share. Would this be a good time to turn to him?
Yes.
Or we can, yep.
So if you're on the line, so Imran Mirza is our colleague from UNICEF headquarters, who got up a little early today in New York to come join us. Imran, if you have any thoughts or experiences from your country perspective from all the work you've done, that would be helpful to share as well.
Thank you, Samir. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. This is Imran from UNICEF New York. And yes, it's a great one. I'll say that there are different activities going on in various countries. And as Samir has mentioned, second year of life is not only new vaccines in that age group, but it's a whole system-wide approach which also strengthen the routine system. So it's, as he's already explained, is giving the new vaccines in that age group, it's giving integration with the other interventions, as well as giving, looking for the delayed vaccinations which were missed during infancies to cover those vaccines. There's some activities going on in various countries, for example, in Ghana, in Nepal, and in some other countries where the ministry has strengthening the system, and they are putting various interventions because one intervention cannot cover everything. So for every objective of for the platform, they have put interventions. For example, in Ghana, they are doing a lot of social mobilization for the parents and the caretakers that what vaccines are required and what are available in that platform. They are doing defaulter tracing during 2YL, that the children who were missed or under vaccinated, that they receive those vaccines. In the vaccines, the government also has changed their policy. In many countries does not have a policy to give delayed vaccines after 1 year of age. So the first activity for any country is to make the changes in the policy and remove the age bar from the schedule. They are also doing a lot of social mobilization and training of the health staff. So these are the various activities which are going on in many countries, and they have increased their coverage more than 20% in the last 2 years. Thanks. So that was from my side. Just to add on, taking opportunity, I was going through the Q&As, and there was questions are coming that despite of having these good coverages of MCV1, MCV2, why we are having an outbreaks. Although it's not a topic for this webinar, I'll just say that, as you know, the measles vaccine has seroconvertibility. So these outbreaks are coming up in Europe, in many countries, because although even if the national coverage is very high, if we have pockets of under or unvaccinated children at a subnational level in the areas, outbreaks will happen. So it's not means that if the country is showing that we have a 90% or 95% coverage, they don't have a inequity in the coverage in many areas. So every child, there's a position that to eliminate any future outbreaks, we have to make sure that every child receives 2 doses of measles vaccine. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Imran Mirza from UNICEF. Samir, none of the questions, well, the question that's gotten closest to 20 upvotes is from Mohammed Imran Qureshi. And my suggestion would be that we just open his mic and allow him to ask the question and share his reflection. So Mohammed Imran Qureshi, are you there and able to speak to us?
Rida. Can you listen me?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear. What is your question for the panel, please?
So the topic is very interesting, and the question is quite simple. mean, we have gone through that the second year of life vaccination has advantage, and at the same time, it has their own schedule and it covers the catch-up vaccination from the first year of life. But nevertheless, one thing is another important, we faced in Punjab. In Punjab, there was diphtheria outbreak, despite of the fact that we were having pretty high coverage, more than 80% at the district level and more than 90% cumulative at the provincial level. But still, despite of this high coverage, we were facing measles, diphtheria outbreaks in certain pockets of the province. Then it was realized that there is a need of booster dose for the DTP, and it pushed the program to introduce new vaccine. DTP booster was introduced, and this introduction of new vaccine was obviously for the second year of life, are to be very appropriate. Initially, the schedule given was at the 4 year of age, as it was only the single booster dose. So my question was, as we are giving penta vaccination at the age of 6, 10, and 14 weeks, we don't give only penta, we also give PCV10, Rota, and OPV. So, and similarly, IPV at the age of 14 weeks, along with penta, PCV, and Rota vaccination. So, can in second year of our life, such flexible schedules be followed, considering the position paper recommendations, in order to increase the coverage for the antigens to be added in the second year of life? Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed Imran Qureshi. Samir Soda, we're no longer seeing your webcam, but would you or one of your colleagues like to answer that?
So I apologize, I didn't fully understand the question. So you're asking, can the schedule be modified? I didn't fully understand. To modify for the new vaccines?
Yeah, like I gave you the example, like we give at 6 weeks of age, we offer 4 antigens, penta, PCV, Rota, and OPV. Can such schedule also be followed in second year of life, where multiple antigens can be given so that they can increase the coverage of each and other antigens?
So you're saying, like, can you have multiple vaccines offered in the second year of life? Yes, you can do that. And, yes, and you can. What you need to do, though, obviously, is you need to look at the WHO position papers. Depending on where you are in the immunization program, it's not something you may be able to change the immunization schedule. That most countries have a technical advisory group, a national immunization technical advisory group that advises the country on policy changes and schedule changes, and that might get adopted. It's not something most of us can just do on our own, but if the country decides to do it, there are opportunities to offer multiple vaccines in the second year of life, yes, and try to maximize the impact of those visits. And you're not restricted to a single contact visit in second year of life. Some countries have multiple contact visits during that time. So it has to be country specific and based on the context of the epidemiology. So for instance, in Punjab, because of the diphtheria outbreaks, it makes a lot of sense. In fact, it's recommended for all countries to have booster doses for diphtheria and tetanus and such. So, and it makes sense, particularly in your setting, to do that. So country context has to be taken into consideration, looking at what the position papers recommend, and then of course it has to be based on policy decisions done at the national level.
Great, thank you, Samir and Mohammed Imran Qureshi for that question, which you initially said was intended to be simple. I see that Stephanie Shendale, who is along with Samir Soda at the headquarters of the World Health Organization, would like to comment on at least one of the issues. Stephanie, we'd love to hear from you. We only have 5 minutes left, so I'm also conscious of the very limited time remaining for this webinar.
Thanks, Rita. No, actually, it's fine. I think that Samir probably answered the question. I was just going to kind of jump in to supplement that, but maybe the gentleman who asked it can confirm that his question has indeed been answered, because I wasn't clear if you were talking about amending the schedules or if you were talking about offering an accelerated schedule for catch-up if children have missed all of those vaccines in the first year of life, if you could offer them again in the second year. So, I mean, of course, the answer to that is yes. In the second year of life, any vaccines that have been missed in the first year of life should definitely be offered. I mean, that's a recommendation that it's not too late to vaccinate. If, you know, Rota and some of those other vaccines that you mentioned that you offer, PCV in the first year, if a child comes in the second year of life and has not yet received those in the first year, then definitely they should be offered, and countries should consider having an accelerated schedule so that health workers know exactly what to do if a child presents with missing vaccines when they're in that second year of life, and so that they can actually get their full complement at that time. And then in addition to that, there is the recommendation for a booster dose of DTP. So that's actually an extra one. I mean, that's the 3 that you offer at 6, 10, 14, like you mentioned, and then a 4th dose that should be given in the second year of life. So there's sort of 2 separate issues, but I hope that the combination of those 2 answers the question that you were asking.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. So we still don't have any other questions that have reached the 20 votes, 20 upvotes. We do have concern, obviously, and quite some lively comments on measles outbreaks and strategies for 2YL in humanitarian settings or in emergency response. We only have 3 minutes remaining. So Samir, I'd like to ask you for your closing comments or thoughts about this experience, the experience of this webinar, to lead into then the invitation that everyone here today not only show up for tomorrow's webinar on integration, but also bring along a colleague if you feel that this was worth your time. It might be worth the time for a colleague. But back to you, Samir, for some closing thoughts and insights about this very fast-paced 1-hour session.
Well, for those of you who had not done this medium before, this was a first time for me as well. So hopefully it went well for you. I thought it was, the technology is quite impressive, actually. So thank you, Retta, for the opportunity to do this presentation. I think this is an important area of work that gets underrated, and it's more complicated than we would intuitively think. And that's because of the reasons I mentioned earlier. We've been operating our systems in the same way for the last 40 years. So changing it actually takes a lot of effort, even if it seems like minimal changes. I'm happy to see, based on the polling, that everyone recognizes that and recognizes the complexity of it. So I would encourage you all to look at the resources and try to use that to help guide you on moving this work forward. It actually, even though it's not necessarily easy to change, it is definitely feasible to change it. And it would be incredibly impactful if we can establish the second year of life platform. For those of you who are doing the Scholar course and need to think of project ideas, projects related to this do not require you to fix every component to get second year of life fully functioning. So you can focus on particular areas and particular issues moving forward, because it's not easy for one person to fix everything, obviously. But it does make sense to make incremental changes rather than do nothing at all. And I hope it was clear through the talk as well that this area of work overlaps with many other areas of work. This area of reducing inequities and increasing coverage, there's a lot of overlapping strategies. And so I would encourage you to go to the other webinars, including the Working Together webinar that's tomorrow. It has overlap with this topic and has overlap with other issues as well. And similarly for the urban immunization and the missed opportunities for vaccination. All of these things are critically important moving forward, and we have recent guidance on it. All of these things have recent guidance over the last year or so from WHO and UNICEF. And so if you're not familiar with them, it's only through the webinars that you're going to get familiarity at such an easy way as the webinar provides. So thank you, everybody, for the opportunity. It was a pleasure, and I think we will also have an opportunity to get together for the deep dive next month as well. So I look forward to that too. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Samir. And we do have at least many thanks to you for your presentation and positive remarks about its quality, but also one person who said, thanks for the wonderful presentation. It looks like you have been using this platform for centuries. So look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, together with a colleague that you are welcome to bring. You now know how to register, and we look forward to your continued participation. This is not a one-off, this is a series, and there are linkages, important ones, between each topic. So we look forward to and need your continued participation. Thank you.